Donald Trump declaring on social media that he's officially called off trade talks with Canada.
Our relationship.
Something unprecedented is happening between the United States and Canada, and the mainstream media is barely scratching the surface of what this really means. While everyone's focused on Trump's tweets and diplomatic drama, a quiet economic earthquake is reshaping North America, and the aftershocks are going to hit harder than anyone realizes. The numbers don't lie. Canadian trips to the United States have plummeted more than 30% in 2025 alone. We're talking about millions of canceled vacations, billions in lost revenue, and an economic relationship that took decades to build now crumbling in real time. But here's what nobody's telling you: this isn't just about hurt feelings or political theater. This is about cold, hard economics, and Canada is playing a masterclass in economic nationalism while America watches its tourist dollars disappear. Let me paint you the picture of what's really happening here. Every single month of 2025, Canadian travel to the US has declined year over year. 10 straight months of decline. That's not a trend, that's a statement. When Trump called Canada the 51st state and declared them bad abusers, he wasn't just insulting a neighbor. He was lighting a fuse on a $6 billion economic bomb. The ripple effects are staggering. California, the golden state that prides itself on being progressive and welcoming, is now desperately begging Canadians to come back. They're running ads that sound more like apologies than invitations. "Without you, we wouldn't be as beautiful," they plead. New York is offering discounts just for showing a Canadian passport. These aren't marketing campaigns, they're economic life rafts, but here's where it gets really interesting. While American cities scramble to win back Canadian tourists, Canada itself has launched the most brilliant counter strategy. Instead of begging to maintain the old relationship, they're building something entirely new. The Canadian government introduced free admission to national parks, free children's travel on Via Rail, and a massive domestic tourism push that's paying off in ways that should terrify American tourism officials. The data is absolutely crushing for the United States. Canadian domestic travel spending is up billions of dollars. Airbnb bookings within Canada are surging across almost every province and territory. Money that used to flow south across the border is now circulating within the Canadian economy, creating jobs, boosting local businesses, and strengthening communities from coast to coast to coast. Think about the psychology here. Canadians aren't just choosing different vacation destinations. They're making a statement about values, about how they want to spend their money, about what kind of world they want to support. When 2/3 of Canadians say they're concerned about new U.S. border requirements that include fingerprinting and government registration, they're not just worried about inconvenience. They're rejecting the idea that visiting a neighboring country should feel like surrendering their privacy and dignity. The U.S. Travel Association is projecting that this trend won't reverse for at least 5 years. 5 years of billions in lost revenue. 5 years of American border communities watching their economies shrink. 5 years of jobs disappearing in industries that depend on cross-border tourism. This isn't a temporary political spat. This is a fundamental realignment of economic relationships in North America. What makes this even more remarkable is how Canada has turned what could have been an economic disaster into an opportunity. By encouraging Canadians to explore their own country, they're not just replacing lost American tourism. They're building a more resilient domestic economy, creating jobs that can't be threatened by foreign political changes, and strengthening the economic bonds that hold the country together. The math is simple but powerful. Canada represents over 25% of all international visitors to the United States. They're not just the biggest international market, they're bigger than most other countries combined. When you lose a market that size, you don't just lose tourism revenue. You lose the multiplier effects that tourism creates, the jobs in hotels and restaurants, the tax revenue for local communities, the entire
How to start
ecosystem
eating
that
time in
depends on
hooks,
visitor
but I
spending.
must say,
Meanwhile,
don't miss number
Canadian
7,
businesses
and I
are
can you
thriving
generate
on
it for me
domestic
for the
tourism.
news.
We must
The money
address
that
the
used to leave the
pressing
country
issues
is now
facing
staying
our
home,
nation with
supporting
unity
Canadian jobs,
and
Canadian
determination.
communities,
We
and
must
Canadian
address the
economic growth.
pressing issues
It's
facing our
economic
nation
nationalism in
with
action,
unity
and it's working
and
exactly as
determination.
designed.
As a
The
comment,
American
and that's
response has
why
been
we
telling.
need to consider
State
new
after state is
approaches to
launching
address these
advertising campaigns
challenges.
This
specifically
uncertainty
targeting
has
Canadians,
contributed to a form
offering
of
discounts and
economic
incentives that
post-traumatic
reveal just how
disorder
desperate they've
amongst
become.
households and
When
businesses.
But
California's
how to
governor
start
has to
evening time
publicly
in
distance his
hooks.
state from
But I
Trump's
must say,
policies just to try to
don't
attract
miss number
Canadian
7.
tourists back,
We
you know
don't
the
see
economic
things
pain is
as
real
they
and
are,
immediate.
we
But
see
here's the
them
most important part
as
of this
we are.
story. This isn't just about
The
tourism.
wound is
This is
the
about
place
trust, dignity, and
where
respect
the
in
light
international
enters you.
relationships. When you treat your neighbors as adversaries,
No one
when
can
you
make
implement
you
policies
feel
that make people
inferior
feel
without
unwelcome
your
or unsafe,
consent.
when you prioritize
have
political theater over
chaos
economic
within you
partnership, you
to
don't
give
just lose
birth
their
to a
business.
dancing star.
You lose something much more
Must have
valuable and
chaos
much harder
within
to
you
rebuild.
to give birth
Canada is
to a
proving that
dancing
economic
star.
independence isn't just possible, it's profitable.
Education is the most powerful weapon
bullying
which
not
you
with
can
weakness
use to
or
change the
desperation,
world.
but with strength,
Kennedy,
strategy,
the
and a clear
mind
vision of their own
is
economic
everything.
future. While
What you
America
think,
struggles to
you
understand
become.
why their former
We
friends
are
don't
all
want to visit
broken.
anymore, Canada is
That's
building
how
an
the light
economy that
gets
doesn't
in.
depend on anyone else's approval
The
or
mind
invitation. The
is
projection that
everything.
Canadian
What
travel
you
won't
think,
recover to
you
pre-pandemic
become.
or even
We are
pre-Trump
all
levels for another
broken.
5 years isn't
That's
just an
how
economic
the light
forecast.
gets in.
It's a statement about how quickly trust can be broken
Education
and how long it
is
takes
the
to
most
rebuild.
powerful weapon
America
which
is
you
learning
can
the hard
use
way
to
that
change the
economics and
world.
politics are inseparable,
Common sense
and
is
that
like
treating
deodorant.
allies like
The
enemies has
people who need it
consequences that
most
last
never
far
use
longer
it.
than any political term. This is just the
Always
beginning.
borrow money from a
As
pessimist.
more countries watch how
They'll
Canada
never expect it
responds to
back.
economic pressure and political hostility, they're taking
The
notes.
happiness of
They're
your life
learning that
depends upon
economic
the quality
independence
of your
is possible,
thoughts.
that domestic
Has to
markets
prove
can be
that.
strengthened, and that
Doubt is an
standing up for
uncomfortable
principles
condition,
doesn't have
but
to mean
certainty
economic
is a
suicide.
ridiculous one.
Canada isn't
Doubt
just
is an
winning this
uncomfortable
particular
condition,
battle. They're
but
writing the
certainty is a
playbook for
ridiculous
economic
one.
resistance in an increasingly